Welcome, Hiram
Hey,
Larew.
Chris.
I'm so glad we got a chance to do this sans lawnmower. There was a lawnmower going out. Prior to our interview, he was asking me, it's the winter, what are they mowing? This is the second time we've gotten to meet.
Yeah.
But in that time, you were able to continue on three fronts. First and foremost, maybe, is that you have a new book, a new collection called MUD ADJAR.
Well, first off, let me thank you, Chris, for inviting a tall, bald poet from Maryland to do this again. I just really appreciate the environment, as they say in some circles, the ecosystem that you've created here for poets and poetry. It's a really, really wonderful.
Well, it's a new collection, and what strikes me, a couple things just right off the top, because I am now familiar with your work. When we first met, I was just getting introduced to the language, to the environment that you establish, and that's the first piece. I noticed that you have the dedication is to West Virginia,
right?
Which is nice. I like it's to a place, and so much of this, the music of this poetry or the environment or the landscape seems to be conjured. But that very first poem, Magic,
right,
would be a wonderful opener for where you're headed and the journey that you're taking us.
I appreciate you pointing out the dedication. West Virginia, and I won't go into detail here, but it's a state that has meant over the years a lot to me, both in terms of ancestry, in terms of the beauty of the setting in the state, and kind of the rural nature of the state, and also some of the hard times experienced in that state. So yeah, and I think some of that rural voice and image comes, I hope that it kind of comes through in some of the poems. If I had to choose one word that I'm hoping to convey in some of these poems, it would be wonder. I just, during this rough period of time that we've all been experiencing for all kinds of reasons, I'm incredibly and eternally grateful for the opportunity to experience some wonder, and I've tried to write a bit about that. This first poem is in the book, is titled Magic, and it was first published in a journal called Orbis. Magic. And imagine, in listening to it, if you can, stepping out onto a front porch and looking up. The stars in your chest, the sounds of their glow, their flash, blink wings, their touch top skies. These leaps towards light, these grateful, urging, holy stars in your chest and now in your throat. Their voices of beams that echo into your heart and beyond. Their blaze, each star that sparks inside your chest and spins out from there, spins you as nothing else can, as when magic comes true, both inside and out, with each and every star so over the moon. So that's a little bit of magic, hopefully.
Bob Dylan is one of the most influential recording artists to have emerged in the 1960s. His first Inland Empire appearance took place on February 25, 1964, at the University of California, Riverside. Today, not many people remember the concert, and if they do, most believe the rumor that Dylan appeared at UCR's intimate concert venue, The Barn. But this story was debunked by an article that appeared in the winter 2013 issue of UCR magazine. It stated that Dylan did not play the barn, but rather at the UCR gym. This ad appeared in the February 23, 1964 edition of Riverside's Press Enterprise newspaper. It stated that the singing folk poet could be seen by purchasing a ticket for a mere $1.50. The purchase was referred to as a donation. The concert was sponsored by the Association of Students, UCR. At this point in his career, Dylan would perform an all-acoustic set, armed only with his voice, his words and music, harmonica, and guitar. No reviews of the concert appeared in local newspapers. This page from the 1964 UCR yearbook contains perhaps the only, if brief, review of the performance. It read, "Poet-performer Bob Dylan, author of Blowin' in the Wind and Don't Think Twice, gave an excellent performance at UCR. Peter, Paul, and Mary have termed Dylan the most important folk singer in America today." Unfortunately, no set list circulates of the UCR show. But in 2004, a recording was released of Dylan's October 31, 1964 appearance at New York's Philharmonic Hall. A look at the songs played that night reveals that he performed all original material, with the exception of one cover tune. The First Lady of Folk Music, Joan Baez, joined him on stage for 4 duets. Baez had been championing Dylan's music and career since she first met him in 1961. By 1964, it was apparent that Baez and Dylan were a couple. On February 27, 1964, 2 days after Dylan's UCR concert, former Redlands resident Baez gave homecoming concerts at Redlands High School and the University of Redlands. Since Dylan was in the area, it was hoped by some that he would join Baez for a few numbers. Sadly, this collaboration did not take place, as Dylan was already scheduled to play other Southern California concerts in San Diego and Santa Monica, where ticket prices were considerably higher than in Riverside. One eyewitness to Bob Dylan's 1964 UCR concert was Ellen Chase Harper. Her parents, Charles and Dorothy Chase, owned and operated the legendary Folk Music Center in Claremont, California. They were both well known in the folk music community and were invited to attend Dylan's UCR performance and to meet him backstage. The then 17-year-old Harper attended the concert with her parents and a school friend who tagged along. She wrote about the experience in her 2021 book, Always a Song. Of Bob Dylan's performance, she wrote, "The concert is mesmerizing. I can't stop the tears pouring down my face as Dylan sings the ballad of Hollis Brown. He is a commanding stage presence, but there is something about the way he holds himself. Not his singing, but his overall mien, which seems to be fabricated." Backstage after the concert, Dylan shook hands and greeted Ellen's parents. However, he ignored her, preferring to pay attention to her attractive schoolmate, who managed to sneak backstage for the meet and greet. Although Ellen was stung by being overlooked by Dylan, she took his snub in stride and wrote in her book, "I know in spite of my disappointment and humiliation that Babs is the better choice for an after-show party." Today, Ellen Chase Harper still lives in Claremont. She owns and operates the Folk Music Center, thanks to her Grammy Award-winning son, Ben Harper, who purchased the store from her aging parents so it would stay in the family. Be it a negative or positive experience, a Bob Dylan concert never failed to have an effect on those that watched him perform. The 1964 UCR concert was not Bob Dylan's only Inland Empire appearance, although it would take him almost 30 years to perform again in the area. In Part 2, we'll take a look at the 6 other times Bob Dylan played the Inland Empire.
Excuse me.
Yes,
Excuse me. What's new in cat food?
today's your lucky day. So every time you eat, you get everything you need.
You know, that's great. I'll take it. A tasty, dry cat food. That's what I've been looking for.
Boy, every cat comes in here switching to flavor packs.
New parquet, fresh from craft.
New parquet? That's right. New parquet now has an extra goodness, a new natural flavor that's better than ever. And new parquet also has extra nourishing goodness. More vitamin A and D, protein, calcium, and other nutritional benefits than any leading spread. New parquet even has important polyunsaturated liquid vegetable oils. No leading spread at any price is more healthful. New flavor, new nourishment. These are the reasons new parquet tastes so good and fresh and wholesome. Try the extra nourishing goodness of new parquet. It's made by Kraft, and it's still the same low price.
New parquet, fresh from craft.
Behind you, is that a real door?
Yeah, it's mostly decorative. It's a lot of people like this. It's like the barn door effect. Hi, I'm Patrick Judy, and I'm here with Chris LeRoy from the Lo-Fi Lounge. And tonight we're going to talk about the new Dangerous album, Heaven. Can you see that?
I can see it. I even have my own copy. If you do a painting, you don't know what someone thinks about the painting, even if you're standing next to them. If you're in music, you're lucky if you're playing live and you're playing a song, and you can tell immediately if people like it, they hate it, they're bored. You get instant feedback. When you turn out an album, you have it's a little of both. There's some people who are going to listen to it on other resources. You're never going to know who they are or what they think. There's some people who buy the disc, and yet you don't necessarily talk to everybody, who would have bought your music. So
Yeah, I noticed this album has a few more rockin' tunes. And I think Neverwhere is probably the most rockin' song on the album.
Something's wrong in Neverwhere. Something's wrong in Neverwhere.
It's a couple soft songs this time, but most of them rock.
The early versions of the Dangers were very much a rock band, and we play at nightclubs, and we were a dance band. John Hickman's on guitar, and sonically we were a rock band, and that was our spot. This is similar to, in some ways, to the Blue album, which is a pretty rock oriented piece with myself and Bob Venom.
I can see that too. I remember you mentioning before the album came out, it was kind of going to be like early Dangers.
When I first started writing songs, our friend Bob Jarvistad and Johnny Hickman and I were just talking about Bob, and Bob Venom and I did an interview about Bob. He was a guy who started the band and was this really a kind of seminal songwriter. He'd write these very simple, powerful songs, kind of like Tom Petty before there was Tom Petty. But all of us were tremendously influenced by his swagger and his, don't make it so fancy attitude. And so that was kind of in my head. He swirls through my head. Bob Jarvistad swirls through my head. And it reminds me, it doesn't have to be complicated. Keep the song simple. And I think that mantra was with me as I started putting new songs together.
Yeah, not everything has to be complicated. This might go off topic a little bit, but I have a friend who, every time he hears Detroit Rock City by Kiss, he always says, "Oh, that's the worst guitar solo ever," because it's just so basic, but it sounds good. It may not be complicated, but I like the way it sounds.
I remember John Lennon being interviewed, and he was serious, and people thought he was joking. He goes, I've never written anything as good as Bebop-A-Lula. And folks in that era were thinking that somehow he was kidding, that there was Bebop-A-Lula was a simple song, but it's just simply great.
I picked some religion up in the album.
Yes.
Because, which one is it? I wrote some notes down too, but like
Sure.
believe in something.
Yeah.
You know, you have the believe in something and coat of many colors.
Mike Saucer brought that up to me. He goes, you have more religious imagery, you know, in your songs than people know about.
But is that how the heaven name came for the album, or?
It worked its way into the song Perchance to Dream. At the end of that song, it says heaven, heaven, heaven. But it sort of changed what that song was about. But at the end is radar yelling out heaven, heaven, heaven. And so it was such a strong line, and the band just loved that section of music and the riff. And I was, you know, how are you going to put together a graphic about heaven?
say 11, rolling across the hills and the trees. An evening sky like heaven, slowly moving. We'll get back eventually.
This next song got picked up for a movie. And because I sang it, I think the record company and everybody just sort of assumed I wrote it, which I did, and it's a Chris LeRoy song. So it went out, it went on to the movie soundtrack of, oh God, I can't remember the name of the film now, but this next song was in a film, and Chris didn't get credited for a while. And then we straightened it all out, and we were back home again to make sure he got his publishing and his payments and the whole thing. Anyway, here's a wonderful Chris LeRoy song. Oh! There's no happy ever after. Here we're just trying to survive. Whole lot of trouble, baby. Whole lot of trouble, baby. Whole lot of trouble in this life. You work and you can have your money, but that don't guarantee a ride. Whole lot of trouble, baby. Whole lot of trouble, baby. Whole lot of trouble in this life. And the morning sun comes up, and the evening sun goes down. You think that I could look alive, but everything is dying in this cold, dark town. Some folks, they think of starting over. It take a lifetime to decide. Whole lot of trouble, baby. Whole lot of trouble, baby. Whole lot of trouble in this. Whole lot of trouble, baby. Whole lot of trouble, baby. Whole lot of trouble in this life. In this life. Life. In their life. Whole lot of trouble, baby. In this life. Thank you.